Yes, you can definitely type in your questions. So, as you guys already know, everyone is webinared out right now. So we did not want to have an hour-long webinar. We just wanted to have something very quick and give you an opportunity to ask questions and just discuss with each other how these new policies might affect recruitment and what it means for future of recruitment from India. And we will try to pitch in wherever we can. But this is just a great platform for all of us to start talking to each other. So we will very quickly begin. We already have a lot of people here that had already registered. And we have a quick survey on the board right now. If you wouldn't mind answering, I think that would be helpful for everyone. But as we can see, most of the people are still working from home. And we are obviously not used to that, especially fall is one of the biggest enrollment season for all of us. So far, only one person has voted that they are going to be back in the office.
All right. So, yeah, thank you, Naveen, for that. All right. So I think now let me formally welcome you all to the Simple Ed Roundtable. And my name is Khwaja. I am the Director of University Relations for Simple Ed. And it's an honor to have you all. Thank you for taking out time. And today we will try to understand this new education policy, which is called as the National Education Policy of India that has come up, and what it means for recruitment from India, the impact that it will have or it might have on the US higher education recruitment. All right. So we will move forward from here.
Okay, my name is Yasser Ansari. I am the director and founder of Simple Ed, and I thank you all for joining in today. I quickly want to shed some light on the structure of this roundtable. So after introductions, we want to have a very quick highlights of the policies so you get an understanding. We do understand most of you have already read the snapshot and the articles that we shared with you. So we want to give you a quick overview and then open up for questions from all of the audience and hopefully start a discussion based upon those questions and the presentation that we have. So we do not want this to be a lecture style discussion. We want it to be very, very interactive. The other thing that I quickly wanted to point out that how the technology is going to work. So everyone right now has joined as an attendee. What that means is pretty much we're going to follow a webinar format for the next 10 minutes. And once Khwaja is done with the overview and with his presentation, then we will switch back to discussion mode. What discussion mode means is pretty much like a Zoom meeting. So everyone can turn on their mics or their cameras and they can just start talking to each other and the whole group. And yes, if you have any specific questions during the presentation, after the presentation, or any given point of time, you can always type that up in the chat box and we are definitely looking at all the questions. So now I will give it back to Khwaja and he can start. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Yasser. So let us first understand, what exactly this national education policy is and where it comes from. So the National Education Policy of 2020 has been introduced after a gap of 34 years. So this revised structure that you see now that is floated is in after 34 years. And now, where has it come from? Which is the regulatory body which is responsible for this? So in India, we have the Ministry of Education, which is the apex body or the umbrella body that is responsible for the education system in India, the entire education system in India. And very recently, it has been renamed as Ministry of Education. Earlier, it was referred as the Ministry of Human Resource Development, MHRD, the more popular version, the acronym. So broadly, there are two categories that this ministry deals in. One being the school education, and second is the higher education. And quite naturally, the policy also, when we will go and visit and understand the policy in more details, we will see that broadly the policy document has been divided into these two categories. Then there is another very important aspect to this document with respect to the international institutions, and that is that there is a dedicated segment under the higher education segment of this document, which is dedicated to internationalization. And we will look into those points as well. And of course, as I said, that this is a round table, so we will open up for discussions. All right, moving ahead. So far, we know of the K12 education system that exists in India, and the previous academic structure was based on the 10+2 system. And the age bracket that this system of 10+2 covered was between the ages 6 to 18, as you can see in the left column over there on the screens. Now, the new pedagogical and circular and curricular structure that has been introduced is 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. Now, the 5 years is of the foundational category, then 3 years of preparatory stage, another 3 years of middle stage, and the last 4 years is for the secondary stage. And this secondary stage is actually the category of students that universities are usually interacting with. And another point to be noted over here is that now the age bracket increases from age 3 to 18. So what we will see over here is that even the pre-primary schooling education has been incorporated into this 10+2 structure. All right, moving ahead. So now the very natural question that comes up is that how does this new policy, affects the undergrad recruitment? As I mentioned, that our focus or our category of students that we usually interact with is the secondary stage students. That is students that are studying from classes 9 to 12. So it's from there that they start making up their minds. So this segment will have a lot of multidisciplinary study with greater depth, greater critical thinking, greater attention to life aspirations, and a lot of flexibility in choosing their subjects, which is going to naturally affect the kind of students that you would be eventually recruiting. Another very important aspect that comes to light is that the board exams that every student, of course, the board exam pattern would still be there. They would still have to give board exams at the 10th and 12th levels, but the board exams would be made a lot easier, testing primarily the core competencies and capacities of the students. So basically, the universities need to readjust their admission criteria when this new pattern comes up. So of course, there will be a lot of this. This document primarily is a framework document, and there will be a lot of work that will go into by different respective departments, that will work as per this education policy. And we will definitely keep a track on that, and we will keep you updated with that. Then another important aspect is that there will be a common aptitude test even for, admissions into colleges domestically. So again, this is this flexibility that is being granted to students even domestically. So overall, the measures that are being taken will basically enable easier transition for Indian students wanting to study outside India. All right, moving forward. So what does this new policy say about internationalization, as I mentioned? So of course, one very important aspect is that it will help or enable greater mobility to students, wanting to study abroad, wanting to, whether it's transfer of credits or carrying out research. So that will be facilitated. And another important aspect is that now every such higher education institution in India which is having any foreign students, so this is important for, you know, the study abroad aspect, for your for US students, or for your internet, or for your students who are looking out for the study abroad options. So there will be an international students office at every such institution. Then again, research collaborations, faculty student exchange will be promoted. Then it very specifically mentions that top 100 universities. So to begin with, we are starting with top 100 universities in the world, and they will be facilitated to operate in India. Then a legislative framework facilitating such entry will be put in place. So that again is a very significant development, you know, that this will really ease out the regulatory norms for academic collaborations and strategic partnerships. Then the credits that would be acquired in foreign universities, they will be permitted to be counted for the award of a degree. That again is an important aspect. All right, Katie has some questions. We can definitely take them up once we get over with this. Then what are the opportunities, or if maybe the challenges, you know, that we see for US universities and colleges? So I think the most important aspect is that there will be a very smooth transition of international students from India. You know, students that will be aware of the subjects that they are choosing right from class 9th onwards. They will be very clear with their in their career paths. So naturally, this will result in reduced dropouts and transfer cases that usually happen. Then opportunities of academic collaborations with Indian higher education institutions would increase. Then as I mentioned, that there will be a legislation that will come up. So that is definitely going to ease the regulatory norms for international collaborations. And naturally, this will result in enhanced study abroad opportunities in India for US students as well. All right. So overall, if we see that what the higher education segment offers is that there will be an overall culture of empowerment and autonomy to innovate for higher educational institutions. There will be a more holistic and multidisciplinary education system that will come up, and a lot of flexibility in the curricular structures, multiple entry exit opportunities. Then in fact there will be an academic bank of credit that will be established. So digitally the credits will be stored. And the higher education institutions will focus on research and innovation. In incubation centers, research centers will be sort of promoted. Then the regulatory system of higher education system is also being transformed. There will be an apex body that will in the form of higher education commission of India, which will be the umbrella body that will be responsible for everything related to higher education in India. So there are a lot of reforms in that category as well. So of course we have the details in the document that we have, and we'll be happy to share that. So for now we can have the platform open for discussions and questions.
All right, thank you so much, Khwaja. I just wanted to talk from a student recruiter's perspective and what it means for them, because my work is mostly working with high schools and working with students and educating them about opportunities in United States. So as Khwaja already shared, these are just guidelines. There will be more specific policies that will be rolled out in the upcoming weeks and months, and those policies will have much more in-depth information. But having said that, for recruiters, what it means is that previously in India, there was a stream option. So students had to choose a stream, whether it was science, biology, physics, chemistry, math, it could be business. And there was no option to change their mind. There was no option to switch to a different stream. They pretty much were locked down into that particular career for high school, undergrad, and pretty much for the rest of their lives. So those options are being rethought. And I think this will directly impact international enrollment as well, because parents and their mindsets are also going to change. So if a student has taken biology, the parents will be much more willing for the student to switch to maybe business if that's what they want to pursue. Because every time I go to high schools and I talk to students, they're very surprised that in United States you can pretty much switch majors, or you can be a science student and still major in, let's say, music. So all of these things will become the norm in India. So that gap will also be kind of filled due to these policies. So that is one thing that I think that is really good news, because India is always looked at as a STEM focused country, but I think that is going to change very quickly. The other important point that the guidelines have is that the high school students will be allowed to take credits of higher education. So I know a lot of US students were able to do that, but in India that was not allowed. So now that is also going to be allowed. So we can also start engaging students from 10th, 11th and see if there are any options to offer them college credits. And lastly, since there is a slight introduction of credit system, credits will not be something unheard of when we're talking to students from India. So that is also going to be, I think, very helpful in overall communication with parents, students, and anyone that is interested in your particular institution. So I think now anyone can turn on their mics, cameras, and just talk to us or talk to each other, or you can type your questions.
Yeah, we are in the discussion mode, so now anyone can just switch on and start the interaction.
Another question that was asked was, will these slides be made available to all the attendees? So yes, we are going to email you the recording of this presentation and these particular slides and the original document that the Government of Education Department of Education had shared.
Right. So we have a question from Sarah, which says, would these changes be reflected in other countries that use the Indian national curriculum, or would these changes be strictly for India? No, it is. It will be applicable across, in all embassy schools, wherever you have the Indian curriculum that is being followed. So this policy would be applicable worldwide wherever you have Indian embassy schools as well.
Yeah, and there is an organization called FICCI, FICCI. Their higher education wing pretty much comes up with policies and shares it with the Indian government, and then the government kind of seriously takes that into consideration and decides if they want to move forward with this. So Simple Ed has been lucky enough to be working with FICCI directly and give input to the people that are making these policies. And they have done a great job. They have tried to pretty much take in all of the feedback that was given to them from us and other people. Some of the leaders of this organization were present at NAFSA also, and they have been doing a great job, and they're the ones responsible for bringing about this change. So if you're not familiar, I would encourage you to Google FICCI. I will write that in the chat box as well.
Another question that I saw from Katie, I just wanted to add, of course, Yasir had responded to that, but I just wanted to add to that. It says, will this flexibility and ability for students to choose subjects eliminate streaming? So as Yasir mentioned, that it will not completely eliminate. So that's true. And that also reflects in the fact that I mentioned that there would be a common admission test format that will come up. But that common admission test, of course, it will have a common admission format, but at the same time, there will be subject tests on respective subjects as well. So the stream, of course, would still remain intact.
Thank you, Khwaja. Please feel free to type in your questions, and we'll
Yeah,
be more than happy to answer.
we specifically wanted this not to be one of the regular one-way communication webinars, So we would really encourage anyone and everyone to, in fact, switch on their videos or microphones and even um, introduce themselves and also share their questions, their doubts. So another question that I see in the chat box is, so student is no longer required to pick a science or arts stream. No, it's not that they would not be required. It's like, as Yasir had mentioned, that somebody, now there wouldn't be any difference between, a science stream or any co-curricular activity that they want to pick up. So even if they, one of their subjects is like chemistry, the other could be music. So it will be, there would be no difference in the two. So equal credits would be, and they would equal credits would be given to both the streams, and also there would be equal assessment of the two as well, respectively, of course. All right. So I see another question that comes up. It says, will GCO and A levels still be prominent? Well, I guess the international schools, of course, they can continue, the curriculums that they are following. This national education policy is primarily would primarily confine itself to the schools that are affiliated with the CBSE and the ICSE boards, and of course the state boards across India.
Yes. Another thing that I would like to point out that India has a lot of schools because we are a
Yeah.
country of 1.3 billion and a really, really young country. And India currently has about roughly 300 schools that follow the international curriculum. So the policies that are being outlined are definitely mostly for the ISC, CBSC, and the local Indian boards. But we, at this point of time, I do not have anything concrete as to how and when will it affect the international boards.
Yeah, that's a very good question I see coming in from, if I can read the name correctly, Sipra. It says you mentioned earlier that the board exams would be easier. Could you elaborate? So yes, I mean, usually the board exams were like high stake exams. So now the idea is that they would be low stake exams, and what exactly they would be like, as Yasir also mentioned, that there are a lot of things that be will be will come up in detail later on. So the respective boards have been instructed to formulate or redesign the examination structures as per the current educational policy guidelines. And naturally, in some time, we will get to know as to what exactly the pattern would be. But yes, one thing is very clear in the policy document, that the exams will be a lot easier and would be not as as complex as they usually. In fact, there were suggestions of of making complex subjects, or taking examinations of complex subjects in two parts. Like one part being objective, the other being descriptive.
Yeah. As someone who has taken board exams themselves, they're usually very stressful for students. There's a lot of pressure from teachers, from parents, and everyone around them, because board exams are pretty much exams that decide what college that you get into, and eventually what kind of a professional you will be. So I think from the insiders knowledge that we have, limited insiders knowledge, the discussions were about making board exams more on the lines of um, multiple choice, more on the lines of testing students on the hands-on education, because so far most of these board exams are very descriptive. You're given a question and you're writing anywhere between 150 to 200 words on that particular question. And that might not be the best way of testing a student's knowledge, but it relied a lot on their writing skills. So I think that is something that I strongly believe is going to change. There would be a lot of objective questions, multiple choice questions, and questions that truly test your knowledge, rather than how well do you write or how long of an answer can you give for a specific question. So I think that is going to
Yeah,
change.
it's going to be more knowledge application based, basically.
Yes. There's another question, Khwaja.
Yeah, all right. So we have Margaret, who's asking, will the grading remain the same? That is A1, A2, B1, etc., or will it change?
I think the answer to this question is that so far we really don't know,
Yeah,
because that
we
has
really
not
don't
been
know
shared.
exactly. Hmm.
But from what it sounds like so far, um, it could also be a GPA system, because the move looks like that they're trying hard to become more international, and follow a more accepted, internationally accepted framework. So
Yeah,
credits, GPAs, these are some things that we see in developed nations, and I think that is the agenda here, because India currently cannot accommodate the demand for higher education. That is why so many students go to different countries to study. India right now can only accommodate about 15 to 16% of the demand for higher education. That is why Indian students go to all the countries, whether it's Australia, Canada, United States. They're always one of the top student population in those particular countries. And I think the government recognizes that, and they want to make it
right.
easier for the students to go to different places, get accepted, and pursue their education there.
So I
There
see,
is
yeah, I see there's another question. It says, when does the policy go into effect? Now, to answer that, well, there is this body called the NCERT, National Council for Educational Research and Training, that has been given the responsibility to come up with a new and comprehensive national curricular framework for for school education for 2020 and 2021. So there are no specific dates as such, but what we can understand is that things should be in things are in pipeline, and the details will follow very soon, and hopefully this will be implemented from the next session.
Yes, just to add to that, we at Simple Ed, as I already mentioned, we visit a lot of high schools, work closely with high schools. So we have high school partners in pretty much all the tier one and tier two cities in India. And what we've been hearing from them, they're already gearing up for these changes. So from what it sounds like, that everyone is getting ready to implement the changes and is having discussions about it. So I am very comfortable saying that you should definitely see these changes implemented definitely for the next academic year,
Yeah.
which will be 2021. So I think our time is pretty much has ended for the round table. And I'm really thankful for all of you that took the time to come and attend this session. For the ones that were a little late, please don't worry. As I already mentioned, we'll send you uh, the recording and also send you additional documents. We
Yes.
are still here for just a couple of minutes. If anyone has any questions, please write them. We'll try to answer them. Otherwise, like I said, have a wonderful day, everyone. It was great having you here, and we'll stay in touch. Thank you so much.
All right. So I guess we do not have any more questions. Well, thank you all for joining in. It was great having you. And we will keep coming up with updates on this on a regular basis. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.